What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business. This is episode 137, also known as Snap, Crackle, and Pop.
Boom, baby.
I'm Christian Brindle, Glenn Shelton. It's a Monday morning. And Glenn is officially in his new studio. Brand new. First ever reveal, studio reveal.
I'd give you guys a full tour, but it is still a disaster in here. I spent basically all weekend moving stuff in. So for those of you who have been out of the loop, which this has kind of been a secret project I've been working on for the past 4 months, essentially I took a portion of my garage, built about 120 square foot studio in here. Got these acoustic panels behind me. Got some other stuff I'm going to be doing in here, but super excited. I think as far as the sound in here, I think is going to be significantly better. Also, the lighting. I've got my windows in front of me now instead of behind me. The window behind me was driving me insane every time. You know, during the winter up here in the north, it's so dark in the mornings that it doesn't really matter. But right now, this time of year, it's so bright early that I always have this like spotlight behind me, which just kind of ruined things. But yeah, super excited about this. Mehmet was really pumped to get in here this morning. So, you know, Dr. Oz appreciates the new studio. But yeah, excited, man. Excited on this Monday. I've got a couple intro topics I wanted to jump into as well before we got into the main topic today. So artificial intelligence, AI, some news, some updates in the space. So I don't know, did you see ChatGPT 5 rolled out over the past few days?
I did. I tested it out. I used it.
Oh, okay. Look at you on topic today. Tell us your thoughts.
I didn't notice much difference from 4.0. But admittedly, I didn't get into it super in depth. So I think if I gave it more challenging things to do, I think I probably would have noticed a bit of a difference. But seems good.
So there was a bit of an uproar from the community about I found a news article here. I'll kind of share my screen in just a second.
Yes.
But the community was in a little bit of an uproar over a couple different things. And it almost comes down to personal preference. But if for those of you who have not used ChatGPT, first of all, come out of your cave. We'd love to have you with us here in 2025. The iterations of ChatGPT over the past, and this is the crazy thing I heard too this weekend, is ChatGPT's only been around for about 32 months. So we haven't even been to year 3 yet. That's how young this technology is. But that blew my mind. I'm like, oh wow, it seems like ChatGPT has been around forever now, but this has only been around for about 32 months. You know, there's been several different iterations over time. The one that really kind of made the firestorm and caught a bunch of people's attention, I want to say, was 3.0. Then they released a bunch of different versions between 3.0 and 5 that we're using today. So it was like 3.0, 3.1, 3.5, 4.0, 4.1. And then last week, if you had ChatGPT and you logged in, it would show you all the previous models. So certain models were better at certain things. And so you might be like, okay, I want to do deep research, so I'm going to use this model. Or, you know, I wanted to focus on written content, so I'm going to use this model. ChatGPT 5 comes along without any warning. Sam Altman and the team just nukes all the previous models. You can't access any of these previous models. And some people in the community were just devastated. And we're like, I'm canceling my ChatGPT account. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to go use Gemini now, which is Google's, or Claude or Grok or blah, 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 like all these other LLM models out there that exist in the space. And I haven't had much time to actually play with ChatGPT 5 myself. I had, again, the little bit that I did use it since its release, I haven't noticed much of a difference myself personally. But I thought it was really interesting, and some people were saying that basically people got attached to some of these models almost in the same way of like a human relationship, right? Like you're so used to this style, right? The way that it's communicating back to you, even though it is just an AI LLM, you know, model here. So I'm gonna share my screen
Yes.
news article, but
Yeah. So
um,
like, it's so similar. I'm in it right now on my app.
yeah,
So I asked it, who is Christian Brindle? Same type of response I would have always expected.
yeah,
There's so few differences unlike the everyday usage of things. Um, People are silly. It's if you didn't put a different title on it of 5.0, I don't think people would have been able to understand that there's anything even different.
yeah. Well, and some people have even said that too. Some people, um, again, disappointed by the hype from Sam Altman, right? So Sam Altman super hyped this coming out. And honestly, I've been kind of a fan of his. If I'm being honest, I've always thought Sam Altman's been kind of a straight shooter. They tried to there was a full-blown coup at what's the name of the company?
OpenAI.
OpenAI, yeah, they had a full-blown coup. The board gets together. They're like, we're throwing Sam Altman out. And then everybody freaks out. And then Sam Altman comes back and like chops the board. I mean, one of the most legendary CEO things to happen in the past decade, in my opinion. Like to have your company try to throw you out and then you end up coming back and you're like, sorry, I'm actually leading the company here, and you get rid of everybody. But now I'm skeptical. I'm going to be honest. I'm skeptical after the hype that look at this quote here. Sam Altman compared the scale of OpenAI with the Manhattan Project and quoted Oppenheimer in 2019. This is saying he quoted in 2019, but supposedly he reiterated this recently. From what I heard, is that he acted like they're working on essentially the nuclear bomb, and talking about how dangerous the technology is, and even though this may have been quoted back in 2019, supposedly it was referenced again when he was talking about releasing ChatGPT 5, which just makes me wonder, is this more about, because again, from his point of view, when he hypes something, he's looking at bringing in more investor money, right? I'm looking at Sam Altman and I'm like, okay, what's going on with ChatGPT? What's the latest on AI? Like, give me the latest. But then you have to wonder, is this information bias coming from him because he's going to benefit so much? It's very similar to what we saw from Wall Street over the past 24 months. Is they get into these interviews and some of these CEOs are like, well, we're doing this with AI. We're going to integrate AI. And then you'll see the stock tick up like 3% because the CEO mentioned AI 100 times in the past 60 days. Like, it just, I'm super pro AI, and I think there's so many great uses, but I wonder, is some of this overhyped? That's kind of where I'm going with this whole thing.
I think a CEO's job, especially for a company to the size of OpenAI or any of these massive companies. I mean, OpenAI is not a publicly traded company yet, but when it becomes
Right.
one, their stock is going to explode for sure. Um, I think the CEO's job for any of these companies is to be a promoter and to be the ultimate promoter
Yeah,
of kind
we
of what
talked
they're
about this.
of
You're
kind of
right.
what they're doing. And I think that's really what it is. I think he is filling his job as a promoter, right? I remember I saw an old interview of Jeff Bezos recently, and it was from like 2001, 2002, something like that. And so someone comes in, they're interviewing him about all of these statistics on you know, the growth of Amazon at the time and the business model, and they're asking him, lots of questions about like profitability and things like that. And
Yeah.
the thing that he kept circling back and talking about was, you know, all I care about is the customer experience. All I care about is how good we are to the customer, how a good experience they have. He's like, anything you're asking me about, I don't care. which obviously I don't believe. I don't think anyone believed at that time, right? Like, because your company has to grow, it has to long term have a future, and profitability and growth and all of those things matter towards that. But he's saying what he needs to say as a promoter, because that's what he wants his customer to hear.
Right.
Um, and so that's what I think a lot of this is. I think it's it's a bit, there's a bit of a showmanship element to it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that I tend to take it with a grain of salt in terms of that. Um, what was I going to say? Oh, it's related to ChatGPT. I don't know if you saw this happen over the last, I want to say it was over the weekend, but it might have even been late last week. But um, Elon Musk tweets out, X's out, whatever you call it these days. I still don't quite got it down, the terminology. um,
This is out.
he posts on his social media platform that he
There you
owns
go. There you
that
go.
that
That's safe.
that
That's safe.
that but he puts out there that he says that OpenAI is going to eat Microsoft alive. It's kind of a bold statement. The CEO of Microsoft comes back and responds and says, he's like, hey, Elon, people have been trying to do that for 50 years, blah, 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 which is also true. But, the growth capacity of OpenAI and kind of where they're going, you look at a lot of these other large language models. Like, I haven't used the Grok since the new update. I know before that it was spewing out like Nazi propaganda and stuff like that. And then, Claude is really great for like coding, right? Like getting
that's what
it to
I've
spit
heard.
out code and things like that.
Yeah.
But if you're just talking about from top to bottom, a large language model, ChatGPT is the best one. It's capable of doing a lot more things than any of these other programs are. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this company goes, because they're not even publicly traded yet, but they already have a crazy valuation as a business.
I think so. One thing that's like on kind of not discussed, I feel like much in this space too, is and Sam Altman talked about this recently, is the power consumption behind AI is massive. We don't, you sit here, you plug in a couple things into your phone, you hit enter, and you don't really think much about it. But the reality is that, and I remember he actually gave the exact number. It's like, and it's insignificant on an individual basis, right? Like if it's like 0.000017 kilowatt or something, right? But all of a sudden, when you have 700 million users, and some of them are heavy, corporate users, and then you start to multiply that on a per day basis, I mean, it becomes massive. So I think the future will be really interesting, because some people are speculating that we could reach a bottleneck with this technology because we won't have the power consumption unless fusion takes off. I mean, and that's a whole nother, conversation for another day. Supposedly that's around the corner, essentially having the power of the sun here on the planet, which is wild. It's a wild time we're living in, Mr. Brindle. Last thing I'll say here about AI. So this weekend I ordered a pizza from Domino's, and when I call into Domino's, normally I would actually get referred to somebody in an overseas call center. They had offshore workers typically that would take my pizza order. Typically not the highest quality. I'd always call in to order a pizza and be like, man, Lead Heroes and Hire Heroes has significantly better talent than whoever Domino's is hiring. They're probably just, outsourcing it to a third party without much quality control. Well, this weekend when I call in, it was 100% AI. And again, the quality still wasn't great. I'm having to tell it my address over and over. I'm repeating myself over and over to get it correct. And then finally it gets all my information, runs the transaction. I get one of my pizzas. It was the wrong pizza. And I'm like, how did I get the wrong pizza? and we did the Hire Heroes webinar last week. And one of the questions on the webinar was, why would I hire a virtual assistant when I can just use AI? Again, I think AI is awesome. There's a lot of great tools and applicable uses, but it is not ready for full scale deployment to the point where it's going to just take over every single job and all these different tasks that I think a lot of people expect it to do already. And I was just laughing because I'm like, here it was, trying to do something simple like take a pizza order. I mean, that's a pretty low level task in my opinion, right? I mean, I ordered 3 pizzas, it's like, and it got one of them wrong and the order was wrong. And I just ended up eating the pizza as is because that's what you do with pizza, you guys, you just eat it. But thought that
Mm,
was a funny little AI story to tie into this.
that's what you do with pizza.
That's what you do with the pizza, guys. You just eat it. It doesn't matter what it was.
Yeah, I think for the most part, these AI callers are not there yet.
Yeah,
Granted, in the next 24 months, the advancement we'll probably see in them is going to be vast, I would say.
probably.
So it'd be interesting to kind of see how that develops and everything like that. We do have a bit of a monster topic to get into
Yes.
for this main
A
topic today.
big one.
Before we get into the sponsor, I wanted to just kind of set the table, if you will, like I would for
Ooh.
supper. If I was a child at home, I'm setting the table for supper. I'm putting down the plate, the napkin, fork, knife, potentially spoon, depending on what's going to be served, maybe a glass. I'm setting the table.
Okay. A Thanksgiving spread, if I may.
um, so I was thinking this morning, about this, and there's so often questions that come up to where it's like, what does an agent actually need in terms of like a setup to actually get started selling? What do they really actually need? Because, we're going through processes all the time of bringing on new agents and things
Yeah.
like that. So this is something that's fresh of top of mind, I think, for us. But there's so many times that agents feel like they need more things than they actually do to just get started. And so I wanted to kind of dissect this a little bit and kind of look at it like what is actually necessary versus what is not necessary to get started. Maybe even something that goes into the not necessary camp might be something that's important over time, but it's not something you need day one to start getting your feet wet. And yeah, so that's a big topic in and of itself. So let's transition into sponsorship. Glenn, who is the sponsor for episode 137?
Episode 137 of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by Lead Heroes, the #1 senior insurance lead provider. If you are looking for more prospects for final expense, Medicare supplement, turning 65, Medicare Advantage, dental, vision, hearing, or custom calling, anything that would require you to speak with someone, set an appointment, generate a live transfer, Lead Heroes has you covered. Lead Heroes, established in 2016, has been doing this for almost a decade now. With AEP around the corner, do not wait. Check out Lead Heroes today and order exclusive call verified double opt-in insurance leads now. That's leadheroes.com, leadheroes.com.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so shifting gears into this main topic, right? Part of this goes in and ties together nicely with, we run a Facebook group called Seven Figure Medicare Agent. It's a group that I started in 2020, beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic. And there's some questions that get asked in that group on almost a daily basis at this point. A lot of times those questions are asked over and over again, but they're almost directly tied to new people coming into the space and being like, do I need this? Or what do I need for this? Or how do I get started with this? There's a lot of like blanket statement questions that are thrown out there like, what do I need to get started? Where do I begin? I don't even know where to start. So
Yeah,
I thought this episode could almost act as almost like a roadmap, a guidebook to anybody that might find themselves in that situation,
love
knowing
it.
like this is exactly what you need. This other stuff might be important, but not right away.
Yep.
Because if you're trying to have everything set up that like, let's say like our agency would have set up day one, you're going to spend years getting ready, quote unquote.
Right.
And most agents don't need that. You kind of start with what you need and then you work your way up, has always been my philosophy, right? You work into getting better processes, getting more efficient, and adding more tools to the fray as you get more knowledgeable. So when I talk about this, where's a good place you think to start of like what do you need to get started, right? So like let's start with the
Yeah.
base. Let's start with the basics. You need a license,
Yes.
right? You need your license. So
You
probably should
need
get that.
vocal cords.
You
um,
need a heartbeat.
yeah, you need to be alive. Um, and I think social media, just to kind of touch on what you said there a second ago, is you look at some of these more established agents, some of these more established agencies, and even the ones that aren't trying to like mislead agents, just the ones that are, sharing what they're doing publicly on social media. I think it has led to some agents thinking, I can't start selling until XYZ, right? I can't start my career. I can't start selling insurance until I have an office with someone at the front desk and I need 10 computers and blah blah blah, like whatever it is. I need to get licensed in 30 states. We talked about a lot of this stuff before, but
Mhm.
um as far as what's actually required, like what's really necessary, again, you can just start. You don't need a fancy computer or dialer. You can literally start with a phone. A lot of times, this is all you need to get started. So, your ability to make phone calls is important, right? So, some sort of phone, whether that's an office phone or just using your cell phone, a license. You need people to talk to, right? You need seniors. You need prospects in the senior space. This could come from any direction, right?
Let's even go in order though. Let's go back farther than
Yeah,
that, right? Because
yeah.
like let's say little Billy just got his license.
Okay.
And little Billy's like, "What now, Glenn? What do I do?" So, as you're talking, one thing that kind of popped into my mind there was like, I've seen it all with agents. Like, I remember there was a guy that just got his license years ago, wanted to contract with us, and he sent me a 10-page plus business plan.
Oh, wow.
And he'd never sold a
Wow.
policy, never been contracted, knows nothing about our industry. And I remember
Yeah,
just looking through this business plan and I just felt a little bit overwhelmed from the standpoint of like, you have no idea
yeah,
anything about this space.
yeah,
And there's so many holes in this. There's so many flaws. There's so many things you don't understand. The process of trying to walk him through all of it was exhausting to me.
yeah,
Um, and it was such a classic example of like cart before the horse, right?
yeah.
Um, so like, and like, I think about that often. And to my knowledge, that guy never did anything. He never actually like sold a policy. He never
And
actually got
now, yeah,
contracted anywhere. Um,
analysis paralysis for sure.
and so what I think about is like, okay, you get your license. Little Billy is like, what do I do now? I think the first thing that little Billy needs, if we're going to take this in order, right, is he needs an upline, right?
Yes,
He needs an
you
upline.
have
He
to
needs
get
to get
right.
contracted somewhere. So sometimes people will ask, can I just go direct to the carriers? In the Medicare space, most of them won't let you. There's a couple that will, but most of them won't let you. You have to go through some type of FMO. Um, so that involves finding a mentor, an upline. That's something that's kind of a big thing in and of itself. Let's kind of talk about that.
Great point. I was in the process of just kind of spitballing all of these things, so I like the idea of kind of going in order here.
Yeah.
I
Like,
was just jumping around the board there for a second. um, yeah, I think so. And again, if you're brand new to the space, right, you just got your license, you're most likely going to need some hand holding, more training than potentially the average agent. So that's something that I think you should be coming to the table mindset wise when you're looking for an upline, you're looking for an FMO or an agency to work with. And I will say on the final expense side of the business, the life side of the business, that same thing comes up quite a bit where agents are like, well, can't I just contract with the carrier directly? Why do I need a middleman? And sometimes some of these smaller regional life insurance carriers will contract with an agent directly, but the reality is, even if you could do that, you want to find a quality upline. You want somebody who can provide training, because no matter, you can have access to the best contracts, the best leads, the best technology. Like, you could get everything, but if you have no training, and you don't know how to use all these great tools and assets that you've been provided, it's really meaningless, in my opinion. And we've seen that, right? We've seen that time and time again in our space with new agents, where, if they don't know how to actually do the job, to sell insurance, to write the app, the do's, the don'ts, that's a big one. So honestly, like, finding an agency or an FMO who can provide high quality training, sales training, is super important. That's one of the things I wish I had spent more time. I didn't understand that as a new agent coming in. I wish I had come in as a new agent knowing I need to find someone who's an incredible sales trainer, or I need to find someone who has an incredible training platform that I can be plugged into. That just wasn't on the forefront of my thoughts when I was coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think training platform or the ability to train me hands-on. I think one of those two things is necessary.
Your audio's
I,
behind
I've always,
a bit of a mouth lag there.
all right. How am I now? How am I?
Good.
Okay. So yeah, I think having somebody that can provide you like a training platform or individually train you hands-on, I think is big. I've always said like those two things, like if we want to get really specific with this, those two things, which one is better, a training platform or having hands-on training? I think it kind of depends on the person. I've
Yeah,
always said the best salesperson probably will have the least amount of time to train you one-on-one, probably busy. Like if your upline is always available at the snap of a finger, it's like, it's like, hey, John, I have an appointment. Can you go with me and go and shadow me? Yeah, little Billy, I got nothing going on. Just around waiting for you to call, little Billy. Like, that's a scary thing for me as an upline.
yeah,
um,
yeah,
don't get me wrong, like it's nice to have availability and things like that, but like for us, like we have a training platform. That's where we do a lot of our training. We automate our training, and it's bred a lot of very successful stories
for
from
sure.
the way that we do it. So tomato, I guess, and apples and oranges in terms of your preference. But yeah, I think finding an upline is a big thing. We've done entire shows about this before, so I don't think we need to
Yes,
go too in the weeds of finding an upline. But okay, so
good point.
you found an upline. Little Billy's found a home, the place for him. You remember that senior living place? It was like a place for mom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
remember that? You remember those
Yeah, I do.
commercials?
Yeah.
I called a place for mom. This is the same thing, but a place for Billy.
A place for little Billy to sell insurance. So
um,
you get your license, you
yes.
find an FMO that has training that you like, that you trust, and hopefully you interviewed a few of them. Again, we're not going to go too deep in that. We've done whole episodes on uplines, FMOs. I guess I don't know how granular you want to get here, but E&O insurance,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
that's the next step, I guess.
You need E&O insurance to get contracted, right?
Right,
You
right.
need to do your AHIP and all your certifications.
Yes, yes,
Certifications.
yes. And you have to post your AHIP scores everywhere you can.
Once you pass AHIP, you must share it with as many agents as possible.
and complain. Post those scores and complain, everybody.
And then every year you're in the business, you need to do it again because it's fun to rile people up.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, certifications, all that stuff, contracting, that all comes as you find an upline and they start getting you onboarded and contracted. Okay, so now little Billy is ready to sell. This episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by Everything Senior Insurance. Guys, if you're looking for an FMO in 2025 to be a partner with you and really support the overall growth of your business, Everything Senior Insurance is the one-stop shop to allow you to get plugged in with great resources. Whether it's ACA contracts you're looking for, whether it's Medicare contracts you're looking for, whether it's final expense and life contracts that you're looking for, Everything Senior Insurance has got you covered. We provide a free CRM in seven-figure CRM to all of our agents that meet the proper requirements on their contracting and have enough contracts with us. We provide discounted leads with Lead Heroes, discounted virtual assistants with Hire Heroes, and we provide just year-round support to just be there and help you out in your business, as well as fantastic training. Glenn, what do people need to know about Everything Senior Insurance, the FMO?
At Everything Senior Insurance, we've really combined all of our resources to create an FMO that can be a true one-stop shop for a senior insurance agent. Most FMOs have only maybe one resource or even no resources beyond offering that contract. We want to provide value to you as an agent to help you grow your book of business. Or if you want to create an agency, we want to help you grow your agency. And there's so many resources that we have put together to really help you grow your business. So if you are looking for a true partnership, someone that will invest in your business, please reach out to Everything Senior Insurance. We would love to help you grow.
Thanks for listening to this message. And now back to the show. Now he wants
Little Billy has a writing number with his carriers.
He does. He has a writing number with his carriers, and he wants to go out and start making sales. The next part of this story, where I feel like it gets kind of fun, it's kind of interesting, is like, what does little Billy need to accomplish this, right?
Yes.
I think we start with like tools, right? Like what kind
imagine
of tools?
like Butters from South Park. That's that's like little Billy in my head.
Butters, are you making that face at me? No, Dad, this is just how my face looks. Put that bag back over your head. Butters, are you ready to stop acting foolish and come out of your room? Sure am, Dad. All right, you can take the bag off from your head. Oh, thanks, Dad. I really am sorry for... Butters, I told you not to make that face at me again.
Classic.
You're grounded, mister. Oh, I'm sorry. All right,
my gosh.
Yeah, little Billy, a.k.a. Butters. Little Butters.
A.k.a. Butters, yes. Little Butters.
Wants to go out into Little B. BB Netanyahu. And
it is again that first start is kind of everyone's on the same road, and then when you get to this point, it could splinter off into many different directions. Yes. Right?
The tentacles can go all over the place.
Yes.
So what does
like
little
an LA freeway? There's 20 different roads going all over the place on where you could go from here.
Do you want to go to Long Beach? Do you want to go to Compton? I'd rather go to Long Beach. Anaheim. Like what direction?
Burbank. Yeah.
So the first thing that I think about is technology tools. And not to say you need way crazy over the top technology tools, but I think you need some basics. The basics to me, and we can kind of dissect them one by one, is you need probably some form of a CRM. I even hesitate to say that because
Yeah.
some of you will be like, well, that's 6 months dedicated to that right there. Like, I want to talk about that a little bit. You need a quoting and enrollment platform, which we can go into. You probably need to be bookmarking your different carrier sites because your quoting and enrollment platform probably won't suffice for all of them. And maybe we start there. Maybe we start with those 3 and see if there's any others that are absolutely necessary. And then we talk about some that you might need, but maybe you don't need right away. So CRM, let's talk about the CRM. So little Billy needs a CRM. What should Billy do?
This one's tough because, again, I didn't, admittedly, and I've admitted this on the show before, is I didn't use the CRM for the first several years
Same.
that I was writing.
File
So,
cabinets, baby.
right, paper. So, part of that is we're old now. Part of that is, admittedly, you probably still don't have to use a CRM today. It's one of those things like, why wouldn't you though? Right? Like with the abundance of options and a lot of them simple and easy to use and how much leverage you get when you use a CRM, like why wouldn't you? Like it'd be crazy not to. So I do think this is something that every agent should have, whether you're selling face to face or you're selling over the phone or you focus on grassroots marketing or blah blah blah, like however you plan on moving forward with your prospecting. I think getting a CRM in 2025 and forward from here is a no-brainer, a must.
Yeah.
So I'd look for something simple. If your FMO doesn't provide one, right, you might want to just jump on what your FMO has, right, to get started.
Yeah. You went exactly where I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
So like when you're new and you're starting off, oftentimes what you don't have is money to invest into your business. You just are kind of limited in that.
Right.
And so if your FMO offers a CRM, that probably is the best place to start. Now, there's people that are going to be like, your FMO's going to have your data. They're going to sell it off to the deep state. And you need... So is there some risk having your FMO have your CRM? Certainly. I'm not going to be naive and say otherwise, right? Like, is this happening behind the scenes?
Little Billy has provided his data. Now we have him. He will never get away from the deep state.
No, that's probably not happening. Like that's the kind of picture people paint.
I imagine Thanos in his chair. He's just like, bring me little Billy's client data.
He has a phone. He has a phone. He's dialing it. Hello.
Hello. This is Thanos. I know what it's like to lose.
Is this John? And don't get me wrong, right? Like there are FMOs out there that right now it's being talked about behind the scenes are taking their agent's data and churning it when they leave them. That's a thing.
It is a thing.
So, and for the most part, it's like the FMOs that try to get you to rely on their platform as much as possible. But again, right? Like working with someone you trust is good.
Small flame, I believe, is the term
flickering
you use.
Flame.
Flickering Flickering flame.
Flickering Flame.
Flickering Flame, yes.
Flickering Flame LLC.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember it.
If your FMO reminisces of Flickering Flame, they might do that. I'm just saying.
Get out now. Get out now. The CRM. So, but like if you're brand new, I wouldn't get too caught up in this. And that's
yes.
Whether you're using your FMO CRM or you go and get a new one, and Christian made the joke about there goes 6 months of this agent's life. But the reality is we've seen this time and time again. I mean, there's somebody in the comments already on the stream today that said, I'm stuck with I'm in analysis paralysis right now. And I get it. And I've been there. And I know Christian's probably been there at different points in his career. So it's like we can empathize. But if you waste too much time shopping CRMs, like you're just costing yourself money. You can always look at switching down the road. I think in some ways it's easier to switch now than ever before. Being
Totally.
able to export data, whether you're able to just do it a couple clicks of a button or you get a virtual assistant who can help move your data. However, so, pick something that you will use, that you understand, that you can put your client's information or your lead information into this platform, into this system, and then move on to the
Yeah.
next thing,
One of my favorite quotes I've heard about CRMs is the best CRM is the one you're going to use.
Yes.
Yes. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you do need just, in my opinion, just some form of CRM. And if your upline provides one, great. That's money you don't have to spend. You can always switch away from it later. You're right. If you don't feel comfortable with that, but just giving you a place to start, I think is great. If your FMO doesn't provide a CRM, just sign up for 7-figure CRM and call it good.
2-week free trial. Sign up today.
Moving on from that. No, I think fine. Just again, you don't need to demo 15 different CRMs. Just keep it simple. Go with kind of some things that other people are recommending and things like that. And you can always change it later, like Glenn said. It's easier to change than it's ever been. And quoting an enrollment platform. This should be provided from your FMO. Like Integrity, for example, Integrity Groups will provide Medicare Center, which every FMO is typically providing some kind of combination of Sunfire, Connecture, or CSG Actuarial. Some will provide all three. Some will provide 2 of the 3. And they'll typically white label them so you think it's their own software. Tons of agents fall for that. It's not. It's just white labeled. It's all the same. Everybody has the same quoting and enrollment tools. But that should be provided, and you need to get familiar with that. And when you have that, like Sunfire will give you the ability to do scopes, the ability to do apps for multiple different carriers, the ability to quote and enroll people, the ability to have all of the summary benefits if you're still learning the plans at your fingertips, right? So you can pull it up and answer a question when you're on a sales call. So that's a big one. Comes without saying, I think any upline should be able to provide that for you at no cost. But you do need that. What else? I feel like there was a third one that I mentioned. I'm trying to remember what it is. Third technology tool. My mind went blank a little bit.
Yeah. Quoting, CRM. To go back to having something to make phone calls with. I don't know.
Yeah. Need something.
I don't know if that was, but you gotta have a way to make phone, regardless of how you're doing your business. You've got to be able to make phone calls.
And a lot of times, your CRM will come with that.
True.
like any Go high level CRM, 7-figure CRM will come with a single dialer built into it. So that covers that. Or if you don't have that, you could just use your phone, like Glenn said, to start off with. I think really, if you're being honest with yourself, that is all you need to get started. That is all you need to get started.
Yeah.
Because if you have a dialer, it'll record your calls, it'll store your calls, that type of thing.
Right.
If it's built within your CRM. I guess the moral of the story is get a Go high level CRM because it will have all of this built into it for you. Do you need business cards? It kind of depends on how you're doing business. Do you need a website? Probably not right away. It's good to have one, but do you need a super crazy website just to get started? Probably not. But you do need one as time goes on. Do you need a Google My Business page? Not probably to get started, but you do need one over time, right? So there's this category of things that you probably need long-term, but you don't need day one to get started and get started making money and getting experience under your belt. But the business card thing, I think, would depend on how you're doing business. If you're trying to do face-to-face and you're trying to get out into the community, you're trying to see people, you probably do need business cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
I know some agents who do like their own little trifold pamphlets. Some sort of leave behind's nice. If you are doing a lot of grassroots or face to face or
yeah.
you know community events. Like, however, again, this is kind of where the splintering happens of how you get started. What would you say to, let's say the FMO says to this new agent, okay, write down your 10 warmest contacts and that fit into the senior space. 10 people who are close to 65 or older, right? 64 and older, who could potentially be a Medicare beneficiary that you could go talk to about Medicare right now. What would you say to that?
I always think that's terrible advice. I hate that. I hate when people do that. It's like the old MLM kind of thing. Even though they're
Yes.
not
Yes.
recruiting, it's like, make a list, network to
Yeah.
your network. I feel like that's a
Yeah.
horrible way to get started personally. My opinion on it is, number one, you'll always run out of your network, but you're not getting experience working a colder market, right? People that you
Yeah.
don't know. I think the survival of an insurance agent always has to do with how well can you turn prospective customers into clients that you don't know, right? That's number one.
Right.
Number two, me personally, I've always found it more difficult to sell to people I know than people I don't know. And some people will
Yeah.
really give me pushback on that. But
I
like,
totally agree. I totally agree with that.
and like, I've had people really kind of go round and round with me on that. But I really think it's true. Like, that if for some reason your family members, your close friends, like, they make it very awkward. um in my opinion, right? Like, I'll never forget this. I had a friend when I was early on in the business, and his dad was on Medicare. He was Medicare age.
Yeah.
And he had TRICARE, just original Medicare. So back then, it seemed like the only agent on the planet that knew how to help people with TRICARE. So I go to my friend. We'd been very good friends since we were like in elementary school, since we were kids. And I was like, hey, I'm like, do you think your dad would let me talk to him about his plan? I was in my first year. And
Yeah.
he was so weird about it. I'll never forget. He was so, like, he was acting like I was going to like come in and like screw his dad over, like victimize him, like put him, like tie him into a contract, something that was going to
Yeah.
like really. And I'm like, and I was genuinely insulted, because I'm like, you've known me for 10 years, longer maybe. I'm like, you think I would ever try to do anything to harm your dad? Like,
Right.
we go way back, but still, like, there was this genuine distrust that I doubt would have been there if we were complete strangers. And
Yeah.
I think what that comes down to is, like, the better somebody knows you, the more they know of all the dumb things you've done in your life. And they
Yeah.
can't see you outside of that person that did that dumb thing. Like, you get
That's
drunk at a party, you take your shirt off. Whee! That's what they're picturing when you're like, "Can I help your
Is that a
dad?"
confession? Is that a confession?
No,
Is that, I feel
no,
like
no, I don't think I've ever done that personally, but
had to think for a second there. There's something to be said about bringing that established relationship into the sales cycle. Whereas
mixing it.
because when it's just a prospect, a stranger that you don't really know, even if it's like a warm referral, right? You still don't really have that rapport relationship with them. It's the same at bat, right? It's the same pitch. So you go through your motion, you go through your sales pitch and what you're used to. And I feel like when it is an existing relationship, it kind of messes with your typical process,
Yes,
right?
yes, because you wouldn't
Yeah,
do
I
it
agree.
exactly the same way. Now, that being said, it's not I'm not saying that you don't talk where your feet are, like, if an opportunity presents itself, but I'm not gonna build my business model around networking to my network. I think that's stupid.
Right.
If it
Yeah. So
happens, great.
the line here for me is, I'm a huge fan of telling everyone you know what you do,
Yes.
especially for like the like we talked about referrals on the show quite a bit. referrals are awesome, and I think getting referrals are great. So like telling everyone what you do is, I think, but the old school, hey, you're just getting started. Write down your dream 10, your dream 100, right? Whatever. I mean, this goes way back, right? This is a very old school sales tactic where people focus on their warm market and network your network. There's just again, in 2025, there's so many better ways to start prospecting and building your book without attacking your friends and family. So that being said, what would you recommend, or what do you think a brand new agent should do if they're trying to cut their teeth?
Yeah, and I've been consistent about this over the years. My answer has always kind of stayed relatively the same for a new agent. I think when you come in, you only have one of two assets to give that will lead to a client: time or money. When you come in, you're probably limited on money. You have more time for the most part. But I've always told people the best way to grow is by putting out a mixture of those two investments. And so spending money is buying leads, running ads, doing marketing. When you come in, you probably don't know how to market unless you have a marketing background. So buying leads is the more natural fit. So I always tell people, take a dollar amount in your mind that you can spend every month that would not prevent you from buying groceries, right? Like that you can literally like afford to do, and then treat it like a bill every month that you have to do. It's almost like paying your mortgage or your car payment. You have to do it,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
spend that every month. And that number is going to differ for everybody. It could be 200 a month, 300 a month, 400 or 500 a month. It depends on where you're at and kind of what your cushion looks like. But then that's probably not going to be enough lead flow to keep you busy. So that's when you get out into the market. You do more grassroots marketing. You try to build more referral partners. You try to come into as many places you can and do Medicare 101s, do bingos, do all that grassroots marketing stuff. And the combination of those two things will keep you very busy. And then as time goes on, you have more business coming in, you have more clients, you get more busy, you start getting more referrals. You then have less time to give and more money to give. And that's when you slowly start moving away from the grassroots marketing and that ground and pound model. And you spend more time. Maybe at that point, you're starting to learn how to market. You're starting to learn how to run ads. And it just starts to, like, if this is the time and this is the money investment, it starts going like this. Because you just have less time to give.
It was very foreign for me to do what you just said right there. The strategically spending, setting up marketing almost like a bill every month. And some people close to me too, ironically, when I first came into the industry, they're like, you have to pay. Wait a second. The agency that's supposed to be paying you, they want you to pay them? That's a scam. You're being scammed. Scam alert.
Scam. Glenn got scammed.
Because they want, and I in turn, so that's what I was hearing from some people close to me, and internally I was a little torn up about it, because again, I didn't have much money at the time. I had probably $3 or $4 grand total cash. Like I maybe a month's worth of bills at the time. Like it was not. So I come in, I leave my corporate job, which I had a decent paycheck. I've got bills to pay, mouths to feed, and all of a sudden I sign up with this agency, and they're like, okay, yeah, it's going to be like 400 a week. And I'm just like, what? I have to pay you 400 a week? What? But the reality is, it was exactly what you said. Like, that money going out leads to an ROI coming in. The very first couple weeks, I got probably almost a 8 to 10x ROI. I remember being like, oh, like it was that fast for me, seeing the ROI. So I was super uneasy for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then as soon as I saw the ROI, I was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. I'm like, this is just marketing, like, but it's a big wall. It's a big wall for a new agent to jump,
It is. And there's some people that will come in and they will do 100% of the giving time and not money. They'll never spend any money. And you can do that, I guess, but usually it's a much slower growth trajectory.
Yes. You're in the slow lane.
Like it takes a decade or more to really get where you want to go. Some people are
Yes.
really good at it and they can do it in, 4 or 5 years or something like that. But like the vast majority of agents that take that path, it's usually very, very slow growing. And so that's why I don't recommend it. Nothing, in my opinion, nothing great comes out of business if you never take any risks. Like if you play it 100% safe all the time, there's a limited amount of return you can have on your business, in my opinion. That's kind of one thing I've learned over the years.
So we're getting towards the top of the hour here, but to kind of put a end cap on this roadmap. So let's say a new agent has done all these things kind of in the order we've talked about, right? They got their license, they found an upline, they got their E&O, they got contracted, they did their certifications, they got the basic technology tools in place that they need to be successful, some sort of phone system, a CRM, quoting and enrollment platform. They figured out how they want to start prospecting, right? Maybe they're doing some organic mixed with some leads, direct mail, lead heroes, whatever their process is. What's this next step look like in your opinion?
Get to work. You now have everything you need.
Activity.
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
The only thing you need is now reps and experience under your belt, because you're not going to know anything no matter how much training you do. The best experience is by doing it. And so, just kind of getting more experience as you go is going to be everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have everything you need to get started. It doesn't mean that's everything you need to finish your career or to take your career to the next level, but you have what you need to get started. And that's what this conversation is about.
So for me, and this will go ahead and be my final thoughts on today's episode, you guys. So you look at elite athletes, some of the biggest and best athletes to play whatever sport, baseball, basketball, football, soccer, it doesn't really matter. They train very hard. And they do exactly what Christian just said right there. Is it's an activity level. They're getting as many reps in as possible. They're being really smart with those reps, as efficient as they can. They have really great people helping them train. And that's what gets them to the next level. That's what makes them an elite athlete.
Mm-hmm.
We only see them perform in the game. You see the home run get hit. You see them hit the 3-point shot. You see them catch that touchdown pass. You don't see all of the training behind the scenes and all of the reps that they're putting in. They might be putting in 60-hour weeks just to make sure they're going to excel in the game. That's the mindset you need to have as a new agent, right? You need to understand that it is going to be an absolute grind, especially the first couple years. I can tell you firsthand as a new agent, and I consider myself, a relatively smart salesperson. Like I felt like when I came into the insurance industry, I had quite a bit of sales experience. It still took me almost a year before I felt like I had my sea legs and I really felt like I knew what was going on, how this whole process worked, how all of these things. So, keep that as like a frame of reference, that it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of practice. It's going to take a lot of training. You're going to need help, but that you can, even if you're not a great salesperson, you can get to that point. You can have an incredible career in this industry. You can make more money than you've ever dreamed of. You can become a 7-figure agent, but you just have to understand it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this episode. Those are my final thoughts. Mr. Brindle, final thoughts on episode 137. What does an agent actually need?
Yes.
To get started.
To kind of circle back around, I'll keep my final thoughts brief. 1, systems. 2, mentorship training. 3, lead sources. That's it. Like everything we've talked about fits into one of those 3 categories. And that's the baseline you need to really get started. Of course, license, everything like that, heartbeat. We went over that stuff as well.
Compliance.
Didn't mention the compliance.
You didn't talk about all the compliance.
Future episodes. We will talk about compliance on every episode.
Maybe
all
tomorrow
episode.
is just all compliance talk. Should we just talk about compliance for an hour tomorrow, guys? Would that make you happy?
With that, we'll kind of call it. We'll kind of call it at the end. We're getting close to the top of the hour. Appreciate you guys
Yes.
watching all the way to the end. Hope you enjoyed this episode. No matter what platform you're watching the podcast on, whether it's live, whether you watched it on a replay, whatever platform of your choosing allows you to do, we certainly would appreciate the support. Make sure to give us a like, comment, subscribe, and let us know kind of what future topics you'd like to see us talk about on the show. And again, appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. Here's to your massive success, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Happy selling.